There was a place in days of old where the custom was to crown a king according to the will of heaven. They had a special bird that they called the bird of happiness. Upon the death of the old king, they would let the bird fly and crown whoever's head the bird came to rest upon. One day, the king died, and the bird came to rest upon the head of a slave. This slave used to wear a cap of feathers and a mask. He earned his bread by dancing and drumming at weddings. When the slave was chosen to be the king and moved to live in the royal palace, he immediately ordered the construction of a small house alongside the palace. Into this small house, he put all of his possessions, the cap of feathers, the mask, and the drum. He also installed a full-length mirror. The new king dealt with his people kindly and compassionately and was loved by all. Often, almost daily, he would visit the small house alongside the palace. Once, during one such visit, he left the door open, and the ministers saw their king put the cap on his head, tie the mask around his face, and drum and dance before the mirror. Horrified at what they witnessed, the ministers asked the king to explain his actions. "Are you not a king? And must you not preserve your own dignity, even for yourself?" The king answered, "I was a slave and was made a king. Daily, I wish to remember that I was a slave so that I will not think better of myself than you and become arrogant and proud-hearted." The king put on the mask not to conceal, but to reveal once again who he truly was. This story for me highlights the duality of a mask. It protects. It protected the king from ever forgetting his essence. It horrified his ministers because the mask concealed the king from them. Today, masks protect as they help us to ensure the safety of others as we move through this pandemic. We use the masks as a way to keep us from inadvertently infecting others and endangering their lives. Yet a mask can also conceal and hide who we are, who we can become, and what we are able to see in others. Yom Kippur is, according to the wordplay of our sages of blessed memory, the day that is Ki Purim, like Purim. We are masked and strive to be unmasked, revealing what is hidden. Removing the masks is then a process of acknowledging mistakes, repairing damage, and seeking atonement. It is a process of learning and growing. Millennia ago, our ancestors committed one of the gravest sins of all, the sin of the golden calf. The golden calf was a mask that concealed the infinite nature of God. In Exodus, we read, "And when the people saw that Moses was late coming down the mountain, they turned to Aaron, and they said, 'Make for us a god of gold who will lead us.'" Israel wanted to worship God by portraying God as a golden calf. I learned a lesson from my colleague and friend, Rabbi Yechiel Pupko, who asked, "What's so terrible about this? They honor God by planning to make the calf out of gold. Gold is central to the construction of the Mishkan, the portable sanctuary the Israelites built, and all of its contents. A sculpture that portrays strength, well, that's also an honor. The sin has some perfectly reasonable ideas. But the sin is not that the idol presents a false image of God. The sin is that the idol presents an incomplete image of God. It masks the truly infinite nature of the divine because all that is seen is the calf, and all that the people think about of God is that image. Pupko continues, "As human beings created in the image of God, we are endowed with many, many aspects and facets. Today, tonight, when we seek civility and respectful discourse, we need this lesson of the golden calf. One of the roots of the incivility, the coarseness of the public square is idolatry. A person with a different set of ideas or convictions presents an idea about social, political, economic, or religious life. Too often, not only does the idea gain a critique, but the idea is then identified with the person. The person and the idea become one. The person is then attacked as if he or she is nothing more than the idea or position under discussion. The critic has frozen and reduced the person to one position. That is the mask. That is idolatrous. Idolatry begins when the only thing you see before your eyes is just a man or just a woman and not a person with many, many facets. You only see the mask that you have placed upon them. If all that you see before you when you meet a gay person is a homosexual, then you have committed idolatry, because that person, like every other person, has almost infinite facets because she or he is created in the divine image. In our political life, if all that one sees is a left-wing Democrat or a right-wing Republican, then that person becomes just a left-wing Democrat or a right-wing Republican. That is idolatry. A one-faceted portrait of a human is idolatry. In each of life's encounters, when you meet a human being created in the image of God, and you see before you someone that is endowed with multifaceted and complex intellect and personality, well, then you won't commit the sin of idolatry. There will be no mask. Kathy and I have been married for 30 years. After 30 years, I thought all of the masks and veils had been lifted, and that I knew her as well as she knew me. And yet, just a few weeks ago, after sharing dinner outside on our deck with dear friends, just 4 of us, physically distant too, and cleaning up, Kathy and I went upstairs and got ready for bed. I'm ready to say goodnight and turn out the lights. With tears in her eyes, she says to me, "Thank you. Thank you for affirming the opinion I shared, the point of view that I expressed." I did not understand. I didn't understand the words or the tears. Kathy explained how much it means to her to have my support, as she has so much respect for what I think. I was speechless, as thoughts and emotions flooded every fiber of my being. I thought, of course I support you, love you, respect you, think highly of your intelligence. And it goes without saying. But I did not see in Kathy what was masked by 30 years of marriage: the critical importance of validation, the importance of being really seen and heard, upon which every human being thrives. Of course this matters. Of course it smashes the idolatry of not seeing the whole person in front of me, my wife and my love. I am not the same as I was before that night. This is the challenge we face tonight on Kol Nidre, not just to judge ourselves truly, but also to unmask ourselves, the mask that conceals and obscures our vision. We should not be the same person the day after Yom Kippur that we were the day before Yom Kippur. May our masks protect us without concealing us. May we look beyond the single facet of a person and see the totality of the person. May we see the infinite, sacred divine in ourselves and in one another. Amen.